Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome into your Tuesday edition of Final Whistle. I'm riding solo today. It's your host, Blaine Spencer. We're going to be talking about the franchise tag deadline day today. We're going to be talking about the massive deal that unfolded last night with Dak Prescott, getting that deal done with the Dallas Cowboys, making $40 million a year approximately. We'll break that down for you. And then we're going to look at some of the conference tournaments that are going to be starting up this week in the NCAA tournament, as well as giving a final reaction about the AllStar Weekend that took place in the NBA. But let's jump right in with the news of the day. That was last night. Dak Prescott, 4 years, $160 million contract. $126 million of that money is guaranteed. Remember, the franchise tag had to be done today at some point if this deal didn't get done. Dak Prescott now has the highest signing bonus in NFL history at $66 million, which is just $1 million more than Russell Wilson's $65 million. And he's also due a record $75 million due in the first year of this contract. It's going to, for the first 3 years, it's going to average roughly $42 million a year. But how does this make a huge impact here? I asked everyone in a little bit of a poll to start yesterday. Is Dak Prescott worth $40 million? 87% of you said no. 13% said yes. He is now the second highest paid quarterback, only behind Patrick Mahomes. He's just a little bit ahead of Deshaun Watson. It's really interesting to see now how are the Cowboys going to be able to build around him. Again, the offense is explosive. We know that. But the defense was the real problem. They could really not stop anyone. Can Dan Quinn turn it around as the new defensive coordinator? We'll see. Second year of Mike McCarthy. Kellen Moore returns. I don't think offensively they're going to have any issues. But how are you going to be able to bring in other players now with $40 million, $75 million this year being given away to Dak Prescott in a year when you know the cap is going down? We don't know what that cap number is. People are saying it's around going to be in between the $180 to $185 million range. That's a massive gap. $5 million is a couple veteran deals that you could get done at the minimum. So it's going to be really intriguing to see how that cap plays out. Does Jerry Jones know something? And I think another interesting thing was this release today. A year ago today, Cowboys reporter Todd Archer released what the contract was going into a year ago. He was offered $33 million and just over $100. He has now gotten himself $7 more million, roughly $7 to $9 more million, and then over $20 more million of that money is guaranteed. I mean, kudos to Dak Prescott, great for him, but I just don't know. Looking at the Cowboys, how is this going to help them in the long term? I know after the news broke, the Cowboys are now the heavy favorites to win the NFC East at roughly minus 110 basically right now. And then it's the Eagles, Washington, and the Giants are around plus 375 to plus 450 in that range. Is it that big of a gap? I don't think so. You have Washington, who won the division last year. Yes, they were under 500. If all they really need is a quarterback, that defense is absolutely scary and legit. I don't think there's a problem there. The Giants, they're a team that plays hard. They were competitive. They had a chance going into the last week to win that division. Daniel Jones, can he limit the turnover bug? And Saquon Barkley coming off of that injury, is he going to be as explosive? If those questions are answered, I think the Giants will be right there. The Eagles have officially decided to build around Jalen Hurts now. That came out from owner Jeffrey Lurie the other day. What do you see there? It's going to be really interesting. The NFC East is still going to be very open. I don't think it's that large of a gap as Dallas as the favorites. Are they the favorites? I would put them there at the moment. Yeah, because you have all of the firepower all over the field. But can they score enough? Are they going to be having to score 38 to 40 points like they had to when Dak was playing just to potentially make a comeback? Because they were very slow to start off games. But and then they would end up having to try and make these crazy comebacks, and they did make a couple of them, and they fell short a couple times, which was why Dak was leading the NFL in passing through those first 4 to 5 games, because they were throwing the ball all over the yard because of how far they were behind, and the defense was not stopping anybody with a 20-foot pole. They couldn't stop anything. It was crazy. So it's going to be really interesting to see how those things unfold. But Dak Prescott, this is a huge win for the players, because now you're starting to see, just like how in the NBA, the NFL players are starting to get their way a little bit more and say, this is our league. We get to make these decisions here, and you guys need to respect our decisions, and we're going to make those final decisions and get what we want so we can be able to be a successful team. So again, kudos to Dak Prescott. He deserved the money. Did I think they overpaid for him a little bit? Yes. Because he only played 5 games. Is he going to be able to come off of that ankle like we think? We don't know. But kudos to this is a big win for the NFL players. Massive wins, suggesting that they can get what they want. So let's jump around some other news that's been breaking recently regarding franchise tags, etc. Chris Godwin, this broke roughly half hour ago as we're recording this. Chris Godwin has been given the tag by the Tampa Bay Bucks. Godwin, went out on the Pat McAfee show a couple weeks ago and said he'd be content taking the tag, even though he would prefer a long-term deal. So I think he will most likely sign it. They're going to work on a deal while he's under the tag, of course. But that also means Shaq Barrett is not going to be under the tag. I know Tampa has been trying to work on a deal for him. He's going to be entering free agency. It's going to be real interesting to see if they're going to be able to bring him back. I would not be surprised if they don't. I would be more surprised if they don't, excuse me. It's going to be, so we will see in that regard. Other news regarding the franchise tag, Marcus May of the Jets got the tag. There was also, I'm trying to pull it up here, excuse me. Here we go. Chris Godwin was on the tag. Taylor Moton of the Carolina Panthers. He will be getting the tag, offensive tackle. He's going to be making around $13.5 to $14 million. Also a huge piece on that offensive line. Probably easily their best offensive lineman in Carolina. Much needed to get him under the tag. So I think another news, Bud Dupre of Pittsburgh, he played under the tag last year. He is not going to be in the tag. So he's going to be entering free agency. I've also heard that they're going to be trying to bring him back. It looks like Pittsburgh's going to be, with the renegotiation of Big Ben's deal, that they're going to have enough money to be able to hopefully give Dupre a 2 to 3 year deal to keep him in Pittsburgh. Because you put him opposite of TJ Watt, and they were absolutely phenomenal as pass rushers, making that Pittsburgh defense just as vaunted as ever with Minkah Fitzpatrick on the back end. So those are some news around the NFL. But again, the major news that broke, Dak Prescott, 4 years, $160 million, $126 guaranteed, $75 million he's going to make in year 1. Absolutely absurd numbers. And I think people need to understand that, again, win for the players. The players are starting to get what they want. Going to be really interesting to see how strapped the Cowboys are going to be with the cap. So let's jump now. We'll jump to AllStar Weekend here in the NBA. I've said this blatantly. I never thought it was the correct decision to have this All-Star game. I know it was an opportunity to give the players to showcase themselves. I know, but the players were really against it. And Adam Silver and the NBA really pushed forward with it. And it was held this past Sunday. What was my initial reaction? I think it actually went quite well in all retrospect. I mean, you did have a major hiccup issue with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid being unable to participate because of their barber testing positive for COVID, and due to contact tracing, etc., they were withheld. So luckily, everyone else came back negative on their testing that were participating in the event. I think the event really went well with no real issues. Steph Curry won the 3-point contest. really made a little bit of a flare out of that, having to hit the final shot to beat out Mike Conley of the Utah Jazz. And it was Steph's to lose. It wasn't, I mean, the competition wasn't really close. Dame didn't participate. So 3-point contest went well. I think that was really energetic. It gave the players an opportunity. And Steph looked like very competitive once it started. You could see his reaction after he hit that final shot to win, that he was very pleased and ecstatic about winning, hitting it and being the clutch performer that he is. Then all skills challenge, Domantas Sabonis took down Nikola Vucevic of Orlando. I think for that, you've really seen in that skills challenge with the bigs now being able to participate, that the bigs have really started to dominate the event. You had Sabonis and Vucevic; they both didn't get buys in the event, and they rallied and went right past through everyone. Most of them guards: Chris Paul, Luka Doncic. List goes on. I think and we all know that the NBA has transitioned to a skilled big. And I think the skills challenge has really started to place emphasis on that these bigs can do it all. They can stretch out, be able to shoot the 3-point jump shot, as well being able to pass into the interior or to the outside. They have great court vision, court awareness. So again, that was also solid. The dunk contest during halftime, I thought it was okay. I mean, I didn't think the dunks were out of this world. Like Anthony Simons took home the championship. I think really Cassius Stanley got disrespected in the dunk contest. I think he had the best dunk out of everyone, and they started giving him 8s to start off. And I think some of the issues with the dunks now is that, like some of them were impersonations. Anthony Simons did a Tracy McGrady impression. It did not look as good as the original. Obi Toppin did a bounce between the legs reverse tomahawk. Zach LaVine did that in the layup line a couple weeks ago. So I think people are justified in seeing these other players that have won the dunk contest or been really competitive in the dunk contest and great players outperforming those dunks. So when you're trying to impersonate them, they need to be absolutely sensational or 10 times better than the original to get the score that they deserve. I think really something was Anthony Simons almost trying to kiss the rim. That was an outstanding dunk, but he did not kiss the rim. It did showcase that he could have kissed it if he wanted to. I think that's why he ended up still winning, because the whole was him to protect his face. He didn't want to have some busted teeth while he's trying to kiss the rim on a dunk, which was understandable, of course. So I think that was solid. I think going into the All-Star game itself, Giannis Antetokounmpo went 16 of 16 from the field. I mean, defense is absolutely optional in the All-Star game. You know, these guys don't want to get hurt. But he did hit a couple step-back threes. So 16 of 16 from the field for Giannis, absolutely phenomenal. Steph Curry and Dame were pulling from half court at the end of the second quarter, both of them knocking it down. And LeBron James, who has been the captain now since they've gone to this new format of captains, he's been the captain for 4 years. He is 4-0. He now has the second longest win streak in the All-Star game, as the Eastern Conference in the 80s had a 5-game win streak, and he now is in second with 4. The All-Star game wasn't really close. Again, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid couldn't play for Team Durant, so that really hindered their ability. But the game really wasn't really in question. The Team LeBron's team was absolutely stacked. LeBron, the GM, is sensational. I mean, he won the championship last year, getting Anthony Davis. Sorry, Rob Pelinka. He's the GM of the Los Angeles Lakers. He brought in Schroeder this year. He's brought in a lot of different pieces to see if they can really unfold. It's all going to be a potential of them with Anthony Davis. Is he going to be able to return? I think he will. It's going to be really questionable to see. They're going to have to really limit him until the playoffs, and then really just give it a shot and see if he's fully healthy. But All-Star Weekend, again, I was totally against it. After looking at it, I think it went well in all due respect, but I still think it shouldn't have happened. If you were seeing clips that were happening around the city of Atlanta, the city looked completely open, in my opinion, during All-Star Weekend. People were out there partying all around. I know the players weren't, of course, but still, the city of Atlanta did not look like we're still in a pandemic. We're not out of the woods yet, but still, all kudos to the NBA. They pulled it off. I think the players will still will not express this, that they were still frustrated that they couldn't really be with their family for the entire break by having to go to Atlanta, but still, NBA still was able to pull it off, and it happens. Money controls the business and the world. So it was understandable for why it took place. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. Lastly, let's take a look at some of the big NCAA tournaments that are going to be taking place, conference tournaments that are taking place. So ACC opens up today. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this takes place. First round games, we're going to have Pittsburgh, Miami, Boston College versus Duke, and it's going to be Wake Forest versus Notre Dame. Those are the first three. Then the rest, how the bracket unfolds, winners, et cetera, go to here. I think for me, again, the title's going to be, I believe it's Saturday off the top of my head. Right now, you have to ensure that I would have to put Virginia as the front runner. They're starting to really figure things out as a team. Florida State really had a nasty hiccup losing to Notre Dame this past weekend. I don't know if that was just a fluke or if they really just showcased their abilities. Sometimes that the inconsistency that Florida State has been showcased in the past couple weeks. Duke, they're on the bubble. I think they're pretty much now off the bubble. You really have to go win the whole thing now. So it's going to be really intriguing to see how that unfolds in the ACC. Big East tournament. We got a couple teams on the bubble. St. John's has won a couple in a row now, beat Seton Hall this past weekend. They've moved themselves now, according to Joe Lunardi, they're the second four out, or next four out, not first four out. The next four out. They got a chance. They're going to be playing Seton Hall again. Seton Hall has a chance to redeem that loss. Then you're probably going to be playing a Villanova team that, again, without Colin Gillespie there, they just do not look like the same team. The team is completely different. They could easily lose their first round game against potential the 8-9 game. I think it's either between Georgetown and Marquette. Yes. So you could easily see that happening. I think it's going to be really intriguing to see how that unfolds. Big East tournament right now, I would have to put. And also for Creighton, Greg McDermott was already by Creighton. His suspension was lifted already. He's going to be coaching the Big East tournament, coaching them in the NCAA tournament. They did say it's going to look like they're going to reassess after the year, but Greg McDermott will be allowed to coach for the rest of this season. So for me, I think out of this, my favorite is UConn. James Bouknight, since his return from his injury, UConn's been pretty much unstoppable. They've only lost once, and they've pretty much handled every opponent they face. So I'd like UConn here to be the Big East champions. And if UConn somehow is rolling like they are, and if they win the Big East, they are a real scary team and a real threat to be a dark horse underdog to make a run in the NCAA tournament. So now we're going to jump to the next one, Big 12. Big 12 tournament looks like this. You have Baylor as the 1, Kansas 2, Texas is the 3, West Virginia the 4. I think here it's Baylor or nothing. I think Baylor has really found themselves after that loss to Kansas. I know they really struggled after coming off of the COVID break. I mean, 3 weeks off, what do you expect? It's going to take you 2 to 3 games to really find your groove again. And they found that beating Texas Tech, beating West Virginia, beating Oklahoma State. Like, it's not like they were beating 3 top 25 teams after that loss to Kansas. And Baylor's really started to find their groove. I think Jared Butler is going to take that disrespect of not winning Big 12 Player of the Year with Cade Cunningham taking that title, and he's going to play on a different level. Baylor's to lose. I know they've already locked up a 1 seed regardless if they win the tournament or not. But still, it's Baylor's tournament to lose, and I think they will get the job done. The last tournament we're going to talk about here is the SEC. Actually, no, we'll go into the Big Ten first, excuse me. So the Big Ten tournament, I think this is definitely the most open. especially after Michigan again lost this past weekend. Michigan State, congratulations, played yourself into the tournament, beating Michigan at home after them blowing you out during the midweek in Ann Arbor, and you host them in East Lansing and you get the job done. The seeding is this: Michigan the 1, Illinois the 2, Iowa the 3, Ohio State the 5, Purdue the 4. I think you're really going to have to see Michigan State. All they have to really do, they play Maryland in the first round. You beat Maryland, you've locked yourself up. Maryland, now you have to pretty much win against Michigan State because you've lost in back-to-back really bad games to a Northwestern and Penn State, and you've put yourself right back outside of the bubble. You now have to probably beat Michigan State and potentially beat Michigan now to play yourself back into the tournament. Going to be really interesting to see if the Terrapins can rally after what their recent struggles in the last couple of weeks. If I'm going to have to pick a team here, the Illini right now are probably my pick as the 2 seed. Right now, they're going to be one of the 1 seeds if they probably get to the final. If you play Michigan, they're both going to be on the 1 line. But I think Illinois is my favorite. They've beaten Michigan. They've beaten Iowa. They've beaten Ohio State. I mean, the Michigan and Ohio State, those first 2 wins against them was without Ayo Dosunmu, and then Ayo came back and really took them and carried them this past weekend against Ohio State in Columbus. So Illinois has really found their groove, and they're going to be a real scary team. So I like Illinois. I really do love them for the NCAA tournament as well. And lastly, final major tournament. Let's look at the SEC. You got Alabama, Arkansas the 2, LSU the 3, Tennessee the 4. For here, I like the Razorbacks. Arkansas's really found themselves. Beat Alabama a couple weeks ago pretty handily in that second half. It was in Fayetteville, but still, Arkansas has found their groove. Alabama, the first time they've won the championship regular season in a long time. So again, you're going to see that. Kentucky, you're the 8th seed. You got to win the whole thing to get in. It's that plain and simple. For Missouri, you're still you might be on the 10-11 line, but you need to win your first round game against Georgia. I think they'll be playing Georgia. But still, Missouri will have to win their first round game to solidify their position into the tournament. So it's going to be really interesting to see. As you mentioned, as I said, the SEC, I have Arkansas. Big East, I've got UConn. Big 10, I got Illinois. Big 12, I got Butler. ACC, I had Virginia. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, as we get into another podcast this week on Friday, we'll know a little bit more, and hopefully my picks will still be in. But those are my picks. So again, ACC, Virginia. Big 12, Baylor. Big East, UConn. Big 10, Illinois. And SEC, I have Arkansas. It's going to be really intriguing to see. Again, those are some of the biggest headlines that have taken place in the past week. Headlined mostly by Dak Prescott getting his money. Will the Cowboys be able to have enough money now to spend to make a run? We're only going to know until the cap hits. That's your edition of Final Whistle. As always, I'm Blaine Spencer. Thanks for tuning in.